we fix wood rot. And, it's interesting when you discover something new, then you focus on it. You start to hyper focus on it. And when I was first looking at the brand, then I start hyper focusing on wood rot. And I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of wood rot around central Indiana.
Welcome to Chart New Territories, where we talk to aspiring entrepreneurs just like you who have made the leap to become Preservan franchise owners and serve their local communities. Hey, everybody, I'm super excited to welcome Dirk of Preservan Indianapolis here today to talk about getting open. Dirk, welcome, man.
Hey, Ty, it's great to be here.
Yeah, man. This is really exciting. It's been really awesome to get to know you and get to learn about you, and of course, get to see what we can do in Indianapolis. Before we get to really talking about specifically about Preservan, I'd like to start out with you. What's always interesting to me is a person's entrepreneurial journey, how they go from where they were at, where they had a job, they had a job, and that process into becoming an entrepreneur, a business owner. So, Dirk, let's go back. Let's just talk about your background. What is your background? What were you doing before you became a Preservan owner?
Well, I have had a bit of a journey. Spent 6 years in the Navy, out of high school. Was on the USS Henry M. Jackson, which is a Trident submarine. Um, After the Navy, I got into sales for a little while. Got into some home remodeling construction as well. Uh, and then a good friend of mine introduced me to IT. I mean, I was interested in computers. He knew I was kind of into computers, and he's like, "Man, you can make some decent money." So got into the IT field where I spent over 25 years,
Okay.
um, and that is part of what led me to Preservan.
Okay.
Um, uh, so it's that planned obsolescence, right?
Yeah.
So that was born in technology. It's now expanding into other parts where people just throw stuff away,
Right.
and I always had a problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I came across Preservan, I think that was part of the natural fit for me was, we don't throw stuff away. We preserve things.
So, so before Preservan, of course, serving in the military, thank you for your service. Joining and kind of getting into IT. In IT, what kind of things were you doing?
I started off really at the bottom and,
Okay.
worked my way up through some certifications to begin with. Then had some opportunities to do some, project lead, project management. Along the way, I was working on my degree and then had a great opportunity to head out to Fort Collins, Colorado, where I worked
Yeah.
for Colorado State for about 5.5 years. And that was a tremendous opportunity. Was exposed to, some great people, some great technology that was being developed out there.
I think comes to entrepreneurship through a different path. But there's a lot of similarities in those paths as well. And one of those similarities is that like that season or that time or that moment where you realize that I'm done. I'm done building somebody else's thing and I'm ready to build my own thing. For you, what did that look like? Was it a moment? Was it a thing that happened one day at work that you were like, this is it? I'm doing something different? Or was it just over a period of time where you just kind of started to change the way you thought about what you wanted your second half of your career to look like?
Well, Ty, I appreciate that compliment. Second half of my career. It might be the last third of my career, but no, it was kind of an evolution, and it was an aligning of the stars that
Okay.
allowed me to pursue this. I had previously had a small business that was just advertising on some screens that were placed in restaurants.
Okay.
It was a nice little business. and I sold that, and so I had that taste of what business ownership is like.
Yeah.
And fast forward to this early in 2025, a new administration comes in, and then at that point, I had been a federal worker for 10 years, and,
Okay.
um, here comes this fork in the road,
Right.
right? So, I had had it in my mind that business ownership was where my passion and where my happiness was gonna be found. I just didn't know, um, what that was gonna look like exactly. But when that fork in the road opportunity came along, I spoke with my wife, and the timing was good.
Yeah.
Our kids at this point are out of the house.
Mhm.
My wife's a registered nurse, so, she can at least, she can pay the bills, and it, I started looking at franchise opportunities.
Did you have any employees in that, or was it just pretty much you?
Yeah, just a solopreneur thing. Yep, all
So
on my own. Yep.
anytime anybody gets the taste of, I think, entrepreneurship, at least a lot of us, it's really hard. You may go back to a job, but it's really hard to like not get it out of your brain. And then, of course, we live in a changing world, and especially if you're working for the federal government, it always changes. Like you said,
Oh,
administrations, and it's not about a political thing. It's just about when one new one comes in, everything always changes. And if you get to, I think, probably a season of your life where you're like, I think I'm done riding that wave.
in that, yes, absolutely. And, the federal government, I'll give credit where credit's due. They do some things well, but they also, there's some areas where the federal
Yeah.
government
Well,
lacks.
I always tell people, and I believe this wholeheartedly. People ask me, and I've had people come to me like, and they want to make a difference. They want to make a difference in their community. They want to make a difference in the world. And, sometimes that leads people to thinking about kind of the nonprofit world. It means people thinking about sometimes working, for the federal government because there are programs that are making a difference in this world. It may lead them to the ministry of some sort. And I always tell people, out of all those opportunities, all those options, which are all noble and honorable, probably the best is business ownership. Business ownership is where I think you can make a larger impact on your community, on the planet, on the world through being a really great business owner. And I think if you look around and you see the things that have made our lives better, a lot of it is around entrepreneurs and people who have served their communities. You hit that fork in the road. You start looking at franchising. What does that even mean? Because that seems like a pretty broad thing. Like, go on the internet and search where can I franchises in Indianapolis. That seems like, wow, that's huge. How did you even go about tackling this idea? And what made you think that franchising was a good option? You've done the solopreneur. Why franchising? And then how did you go about tackling that big landscape of all of the things that you could potentially invest in as a aspiring entrepreneur?
Yeah, so when I started down that other fork in the road,
Uh-huh.
my wife and I had some, deep, candid conversations
Yeah.
about, where that last third of my career was gonna
Uh-huh.
be spent, and I had some ideas of starting something on my own, which, scared my wife a little bit, and, I understand that.
Yeah, right.
Uh, it just so happens that a very good friend of mine, friends since 2nd grade, had started looking at franchising, a couple months before this fork in the road happened, and he encouraged me. He was like, "Dirk, you'll be surprised at how many franchises are out there." So he put me in contact with his franchise broker, Jonathan Pace, and, Jonathan and I started down a road, looking at different franchise opportunities, and I spent the better part of the spring into the summer, before things
I
clicked.
think some people think about going out and kind of doing this all on their own. I guess I've seen some interesting opportunities. Maybe they're thinking they've walked into a restaurant they think would be really great if it was in their area, or they've received a service they think would be really great and they know it's a franchise, and so they get on the website and they talk to the brand. What do you think was the value of working with somebody like Jonathan, a franchise broker, to kind of help walk you through the process?
Sure.
And ultimately, I guess they probably showed you not just one brand, not just Preservan, but probably multiple brands, right?
Yes. So, Jonathan took some time to get to know me. That's
Mhm.
important, you know, he doesn't
Sure.
wanna steer me towards a $2,000,000 franchise,
Right.
so we looked at budget, we looked at my interests, we looked at my, you know, my background. So he really got to know me as this process evolved, and, you know, he puts together a kind of a list of, you know, ones he thinks would be a good fit, and, you know, then it's on me to do some research and then tell him the ones that I really have interest in, and then he puts me in contact with that franchise.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, I can and make validation calls, I can look more closely at it, and there were along the way, there were a couple that really caught my eye, and yeah, I'll be honest, Ty, Jonathan had just about given up on me. I think he had provided 3 he had provided 3 lists, and I spent a lot of time researching. Nothing quite clicked, and then he it was literally you were the last one. He was like, "Dirk, this is one that I just kind of discovered." He said, "It might be a good fit." I start looking, and absolutely every box that I had, you know, developed you know, along the way was getting checked.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Jonathan, I think this, likely is the one." Um, and that's about the time that I had reached out to you and,
Yeah.
I made a trip out to Oklahoma City, and,
Yeah.
you know, the rest is kinda history.
The rest is kind of history. That's right. And it's been a bit of a wild ride getting here. Navigating, we did all of this during a government shutdown, and you know you funded your business in part through an SBA, and so we had to navigate all of that during a government shutdown. It's been a pretty wild ride. And now you're open and off to the races. But before we get there, let's just talk. Let's just talk about Preservan, right? What does Preservan do?
Gosh, what does Preservan do? Well, bottom line, we fix wood rot, and, you know, it's interesting when you discover something new. Then you focus on it. You
Uh
start to
huh.
hyper focus on it, and when I was first looking at the brand, then I start hyper focusing on wood rot, and I'm like, "Holy cow, there's a lot of wood rot around Central Indiana."
Yeah.
So, we fix wood rot in a way that doesn't tear out windows and tear out and replace doors. We
Yeah.
fix things in place. It's minimally invasive, and it's definitely a cost savings, for the customer.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, putting up all new windows, new door, man, we can replace it in place, so it's awesome.
It's so funny you say that, like, once you become aware of something, how you just can't get away from it. I've been doing this essentially for 10 years now. I remember, like, when it kinda hit me, you know, the wood decay, and then it didn't matter where I traveled. I would go to Dallas, or I would go to Massachusetts, or, you know, I'd go to Chicago, and, like, everywhere I'm looking around, I'm like, "Wow, there's wood rot, there's wood rot, there's wood rot." You know, you realize that it does sound like a really niche business, and in a sense it is. We're one of very few that do this, but then you realize, yeah, it's a niche business, but it's a high demand service, very high demand, because it quite literally grows on trees. So yeah, man. I remember those conversations we were having where, you know, I think we maybe had asked you like, hey, between this call and this call, go around, look around, and see if you see it, and you came back like, well, I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, so Preserve Indy, that is your location. That's the area that you have opened up in and are going to be serving. I always say that a business is built not one metro, but it's built upon the small communities, the areas inside of your area that you're going to be serving. So specifically Preserve Indy, what does that encompass? What areas in Indianapolis are you excited about bringing a service to?
Well, I mean, I'm excited about the entire territory.
Sure.
Um, I think I have a tremendous, territory, to be honest.
Yeah.
I go all the way from, you know, Cicero on the north side, which is, you know, Morse Reservoir is part of. I come down to Zionsville and across the, kind of the north corridor with Carmel, Westfield, Noblesville, um, and then Geist Reservoir. And then, you know, we get down through, you know, Indianapolis itself, and there, you know, we have a number of historic neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and, you know, that all kind of through downtown. And, you know, I live on the south end,
Uh-huh.
so my territory goes to Franklin.
Okay.
It includes Bargersville, Center Grove, Greenwood, Southport. there's wood rot everywhere, Ty.
Yeah.
They all got wood rot, but yeah, yeah, so I got some tremendous communities and opportunities, both in the newer home segment up
Yeah.
on Northside Carmel, where we have a lot of custom-built homes that, are 20, 30 years old, and then through the historic districts in Indianapolis where we see, homes well over 100 years old.
Yeah. No, and that's what's really cool about the service, how it it does meet all of those guidelines to work on historic preservation stuff in those beautiful, landmark neighborhoods. But then for those that have more modern homes and more modern wood, that is sustainably grown but rots really fast, we can be a service to those homes as well. A lot of businesses can work on the new houses, but their services aren't approved to work on the old houses, or maybe they're very niche and they can work on the old houses, but they don't really have any services provide for newer homes. And Preservan, I think our values allow us to serve the entire community, the entire area. Uh, with that being said, like specifically for Indianapolis, how does Preservan, in your mind, stand out differently from the competition? What is the competition, and then how do we stand out differently from them?
Well, I mean, I think the competition comes in at 2 levels, right? So there are true historic window restoration companies where they come out, they pull windows out, take them back to a shop, they mill the wood, and they make it look just like it did when it was brand new,
Yeah,
which is awesome. I mean, that is
right.
awesome. If your budget, you know, uh, can handle that kind of, renovation. Um and the other end are, basically your painters and your handymen who are, as I've seen, using, wood filler or Bondo, which looks great at the beginning,
Yeah.
right? It's not until a year or 2 later that you realize that, those products don't expand and contract with the wood, so they just literally pop out. In fact, you're kinda lucky if they pop out, otherwise they just kinda crack, they let water in, and then things get even worse. So, yeah, those are I guess, the 2 levels of.
It's funny you say that about Bondo. So, an interview that I've had with Casey and Emily, similar interview that from Preserve in Charleston, they prompted me to make a sticker for us all to use and maybe put on our toolboxes or whatever. Said not Bondo,
Okay.
uh, just not Bondo. Just so everybody knows, it's not Bondo.
Yeah.
Because we get that in a lot of Facebook comments, because the epoxy product that we use has been thoroughly tested over the last 50 years with the National Park Service. There's a number of white papers on this for its longevity and for its appropriateness, and it's not Bondo. Uh,
Well, and real quick, Ty, those are the repairs that they use other than epoxy if you're lucky.
yeah.
I saw 2 homes, one I'm working on right now where you can conceal a lot with enough caulk and paint, and man.
That is so true. It's like Bondo's generally Bondo is not a great option, but it's generally the better option that most of these kind of chuck in the trucks use, because a lot of times they just put a tube of caulking in the area and just kind of smooth it out, and then when you get to work there you just like grab it and you just pull this huge thing.
Exactly.
Right. We say often here, and this, that we don't have customers, we have neighbors. As you think about your area and your community and Indianapolis, what does that mean to you to have a neighbor and not a customer?
Well, I think I am putting that into practice, and it works, right? We don't sell. I'm not a salesperson out there selling, Preservin. I am out there educating, the neighbors on, you know, how we can help them with the issues that they're having. So, and I have found, our product isn't necessarily perfect for everything. So
Sure.
my neighbors, I think, especially appreciate the fact when I point out an area, maybe it's, some cheap trim board that is rotting, that could be replaced, fairly cost effectively, outside of, what
Yeah.
we do. Um, so to me, being that resource for our neighbors, to help educate them on the process and then bring some extra value, with referral partners, right?
Sure.
If what they need is actually, all they have is chipping paint, they don't have rot, well, they need a good painter. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
if I have a great painter that I can refer them to, then, that's just part of, treating our neighbors like we should.
That's man, that's what I love about, you know, serving your neighbors, serving your community is understanding where your service is the right fit, your service is not the right fit. And that's what you do for your neighbor. If your neighbor asked you and they came to you and they said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this because of some salesperson told me I needed to like replace all my windows because of this rot issue," you would tell your neighbor like, "Hey, I don't think you need to do that because I know of this company that will do this thing and save you a ton of money." You would do that. And that's ultimately what we do. We help them solve the actual rot problem when it's the right problem to solve. But when it's not the right problem, we communicate them how to solve it a different way or educate them on what they need to do so that we don't have to come out again, right? Like, hey, you've got a water problem or spray your windows and doors. We're also serving them by letting them know when we're not the right fit. Um, so going back to the process of going through Jonathan, you talked about how like how many you went through and all those different kind of steps along the way and how, Jonathan probably was close to giving up on you as your franchise consultant broker. What was it specifically about Preservan's business opportunity that stood out amongst all of the other ones that you looked at?
So what drew me to Preservan, to begin with, was the branding. So it stood out to me. It was clear that somebody gave a lot of thought that the branding fit the product and the services that are offered. Um, Secondly, was the mission and the products, the services that we offer. It was clearly something that I recognized was in demand
Hmm.
and saved people money. I could tell that the process saved people, time as well. And then thirdly, quite honestly, the FDD. When I saw the
Okay.
FDD, the financials made sense to me. It was clear there was a good opportunity there.
I like the order you put that in, right? That is going to catch people's eye because that's so important in a business. Like, right? Like you're going to put your shingle out. You need people to be interested in the brand. And I think when we put the brand together, and I know we've talked about this, I talked to the guys that did it and I said, "Hey, this is how I want people to feel when they see our name, when they see our logo, when they see our website." And that guy did a phenomenal job of like taking my words and making it look like a logo that kind of represented what I wanted them to feel. Two, I like how you kind of brought out that, of course, it's the mission, that you kind of aligned with the mission, because I think for anybody looking at a business opportunity, you really want to align with their mission. Money is, of course, important. And obviously, you don't get into business not to make money. This isn't a nonprofit organization. And even those actually have to make money for them to work. Uh, you, but you, for you to get up every single day and do this, if you can align with the values and the mission of the business, then getting up on the days that it's going to be hard, because you're going to have hard days, makes that all easier. And you talked about how we educate people, we don't really sell them. If you can align with the values of the business, when you're meeting your community, you're meeting your customer, your neighbor, you're educating them. And that doesn't put this overwhelming burden on people to go like, "Oh, I got to sell, sell, sell," even though I really don't believe in it. So I think that those are all really great. I love the order you put them in. One thing that, I'm interested to hear from you as somebody, you got a little bit of like background, I think, renovating your own houses. I don't think anybody ever paid you for it. You just did it to your houses and then lived in them, or
My wife never paid me.
right. Right now, you guys, training ended 2-3 weeks ago, and right now you and your technician are on jobs doing work. How did you feel like how did that training process go? And as you're there on site, do you guys feel like you're at a position where you can add value right now to your neighbors because of the training?
Absolutely. So let me give a shout out to the team that you have put together there, because you have incredible people. Um, Emily, Josie, Travis, Susie. I mean, everybody is great. And I have to, digress a little bit to say I didn't know how good the team was when I jumped in. I mean,
Of
I had a taste of it.
Sure.
The training was very good. And yeah, you can't go over everything, right? But Josie does an incredible job. Her background is extensive, and that becomes apparent. Her knowledge is great. and she is just a tremendous person. So, yeah, the training absolutely, geared us up for what we were gonna see.
Yeah.
We finished our first job, we're out on our second job and starting our third job tomorrow. So, yeah, things happen fast.
How has that reception been from the community? I mean, I think we started running some digital ads together about, maybe 30, 45 days ago. Now you're in market. Both, how has it looked from that perspective of like what you've seen coming in as far as appointments and leads? And then once you're actually there on the front porch, how have people perceived the service that we're offering?
Yeah, so, no, the lead generation system works, and I am getting high quality leads, that I am, turning into jobs.
Yeah.
At a good pace. So, uh, the lead generation system is great. Um, the neighbors that I have come into contact with have also been great, right? Because our philosophy is not to go out there and sell them; it's to go out there and educate them. So, you treat them like a neighbor from the get go. You smile, um, and then you're just really educating. They show you the spots that they know that they have rot. You talk about what causes the rot. It's a fungus. It's a
Yeah.
fungus that is not going to go away, and it progresses. So you walk them through this education process, and then you talk about how you can solve their problem for them. Um, and then you leave it up to them to decide if they want to, schedule uh, the fix. So
So people have been really pretty receptive. They've been, excited about it and happy that somebody like you is available in the area.
absolutely. I've had a couple of comments, where they, because I asked, where did you hear about us? And, it's usually a Facebook ad, and
Right.
we saw your Facebook commercial and just thought it was, such a great idea, and we know that we have wood rot and wanted to see what you could do. So, yeah, 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 great reception, great reception.
Uh, I've actually never been to Indianapolis. I look forward to getting out there for the grand opening. But what I know about the city and what you've shared about the city, I am confident that this is a community both in the new houses and the old houses, the historic homes and the beautiful suburban houses. We talk about lakes, gates, and golf courses. Those neighborhoods. I think you're going to find a lot of success. I think that you're the right guy to meet that success. We are super excited to have you as one of our local owners, Dirk. As you look ahead, 5 years from now, and outside of money, because when we start a business, we want the financials to make sense. We want to make money. We want it to be a good investment. But outside of that, what kind of difference do you want Preservan to make in your life and in Indianapolis?
Sure. So in 5 years, I truly want to be considered the historic window expert in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah,
So whenever there's a historic building being renovated, I want my name to be at the top of the list for somebody that is called for consultation of how can we restore these windows as we preserve and restore this building.
yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely think that that's what I'll get to in 5 years. And as far as personally, I I've worked at so many jobs where you just don't feel like you're making that much of a difference, or you don't see these tangible,
Yeah.
difference that you're making. This is an opportunity where every day I am making a very tangible difference for our neighbors, right? Um, all you gotta do is look at some of the before and after pictures,
Yeah.
across the franchises in the country, and we do some incredible stuff, and we save people a lot of money, and, um so just being able to wake up every day to a job that I know is making a difference in our neighbors' lives. I mean, it does. You
It
know, it
does.
it makes a big difference. And,
Yeah.
I think just the happiness factor of my life, oh, as I build this business is gonna increase.
Yeah. That's really great, and I think that is what drives me, both knowing the difference we make in our local market at our corporate location here in OKC, but then seeing all those photos and reading all the reviews of everybody out there, because I think homeownership is the largest investment that almost everybody will make in their lives is the purchase of their home. It's their castle. And when you have this like little problem like wood rot that you just can't seem to get fixed, and it's a nagging thing, it's a little bit of an embarrassment, you apologize to people and say, oh, don't mind that. And when you get to find a solution that just makes sense, it doesn't break the bank, you can see it in our reviews. That's all I'm saying. See it in the reviews. I know we'll be able to see it in the reviews that will be coming for Preservan Indianapolis really soon.
There's one thing I want to talk about,
Yeah.
and that is this incredible network of owners that is being built. It's just incredible, the resources. So there's an owners
Yeah.
managers chat. They are so engaged, and I can't wait till, my knowledge level rises to, where I can be, helping, folks with these questions. But when I run into something that I haven't seen, I take a picture, throw it out there on the chat, and there are 2 or 3 owners who take the time to point you in the right directions.
Man, I wish I could take more credit for it. We have just been fortunate and blessed for the people who have aligned with our mission to bring this service, and everybody here who has seen their communities just the same way you have, like their neighbors. So, Dirk, it is really a pleasure and an honor to have you as one of our local owners. We are super excited for what you're going to do in Indianapolis, and just can't wait to build alongside you and be part of your entrepreneurial journey. So, thanks for joining me today, Dirk.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Here's the thing. If you live in Indianapolis, Dirk is ready to serve you and help you get repairs done on your home, save you money, save you time, and do it in a sustainable way. So just go to preservan.com and connect with Dirk, and he will get you a free quote and get you fixed up. And if you've watched this video and you're thinking to yourself, I would love to bring this to my area. My area needs Preservan, and I'm the aspiring entrepreneur to do it. I want you to go to gopreservan.com and fill out the form, and we will get in touch with you. Or you can just find me on LinkedIn, just search Ty McBride, and we can get connected there. Later.